That ought to make you rock and roll this morning. Mr. Ron Nelson. Nelson Commercial Real Estate is with us. We're seeing stats from the Real Estate Association of the Sioux Empire, home building permits, and we'll be talking more on the Report Card Show on Monday. But your ABCs this morning talk a little bit about new business comeback story, the big reveal, and what else?
Well, I thought I'd kind of talk about, people every single day in our business, it seems like people are saying, how do we make it work today? There's a lot of factors going on out there, and the, fun thing about this business, I guess, is, each day you wake up and say, what are the new challenges today? And, I've been at this over 30 years, Bill, and yet, it's keeping us on our toes a little bit, just kind of trying to figure out, specifically, we talk a lot about banking, and the challenges in getting properties, financed. Bankers are even, we've been talking apartments, for years and years, and even with that, bankers are starting to, I think, look a little more closely, just at the numbers and things like that. I want to say 2-3 years ago, you said apartment, and it's like the deal's approved. Let's just talk about, the finer details. Whereas today it's, they're just taking a closer look and largely just looking at fundamentals, which you always need to do anyway, but just taking a closer look today. You hear about, people make their mark when times are down. We've talked about, some of the Warren Buffett quotes as far as...
For the young people, tell them who Warren Buffett is.
Warren is the Oracle of Omaha, and I don't know where he ranks on the list of world's richest people, but probably in the top 5 always.
Doesn't matter.
But, just made his money largely in the stock market, and just watching trends, and I'm not going to get it right. I just said it a couple of weeks ago, but I'll take another stab at it. But, Warren always basically looks at doing the opposite of what the general public does. And so... I think one of his more recent famous quotes is, be greedy when or I'm not going to get it right now.
That's all right. You will this time.
Something to the effect of, when everybody else is running towards something, that's the time to, when everybody else is being greedy, it's time to back away. And when everybody else is going the other way, that's the time to be greedy. And so, one could say right now we're in a time where people are being very careful. People are being very cautious. The challenge we're having in the commercial real estate business is valuations. People are remembering what things were like, just 1 or 2 years ago. And the notion is always that, real estate never goes down in value. And largely we like to think, that is true. We were living on a sugar high for a couple of years, and those that sold at the top of the top, did well. They're probably paying some taxes. Just got my tax bill this week, and it's like, oh yeah, we sold some property too, and did okay, and it felt great until the piper comes calling to get his handout. But no, that's just normal part of buying and selling real estate. But today we're just kind of looking at ways to be creative, to get deals put together. We're hearing the term contract for deed coming up a little bit more.
Imagine that.
Well, yeah, and I tease the millennials a lot in terms of, some of these things, they're never, have not even, heard of or are familiar with. But, a contract for deed instrument to some has a negative connotation to it, but it's a creative way to get properties financed that sometimes, either A, aren't able to be financed, or B, you can offer some better terms than one can get at the banks. And if both parties are okay with the terms, the rates might be 8% today, and a seller might say, for 6.5%, we'll carry that. And yeah, I could maybe do a little bit better in some other markets, but I'm getting my property sold. And what is it collateralized by? My own property, so I'm not saying nothing is a no risk deal, but the risk isn't very high, when you have your property that you can always, essentially take back, or it's backing, the investment you have. Somebody says, well, if it's a house, what if somebody trashes my house? It's worth less after I take it back than before I sold it to them. So there is that risk. You got to, again, be smart, do your due diligence. But like I said, the big probably advantage is you're getting it sold, where today we're seeing properties that are having some problems. I'm involved in one myself where we should have been closed probably a month ago, and just ran into some challenges getting the bank to get on board.
So how are the banks
with this deal
treating the commercial brokers? What are you seeing that's a little different today than it was a year or 5 years ago?
Well, it's not so much the commercial brokers as much as just the borrowers, in terms of just, they're just taking a hardline look at largely credit. You can say, oh, well, we're 50% loan to value, meaning, I'm only borrowing half as much of the value of the property, so what's the risk, to the banker? And they're still saying, well, if you can't make the payments, equity is great. It just doesn't make payments. And so, they look at cash flow, and they want the cash flow to be stable, and, post-COVID, some things are more stable than others, and so that is really the area that banks focus in on the most. And, so, like I said, sometimes you just can't seem to satisfy the criteria, the new age of standards that banks have. And so elements like contract for deed and, just some other, I'm hearing terms like swap and things like that are even new to me. So I'm not going to talk about them yet on the radio because I'm just kind of learning some of them myself. But the point is,
but they're swirling around us.
That's the point. We're swirling with new creative concepts, creative ideas that, we haven't looked at for years and years.
Comeback stories and the big reveal. Those are the two of the three headlines.
Well, I've been talking about, and it's the same thing. It's a new business that's coming to town, but it's not really a new business. It is a comeback, and it is a business that was closed during COVID, a restaurant business. And I'm here to say, a week ago today, if you recall, we were trying to get things scheduled, and I said, I got a closing.
I remember.
Yeah. And it was.
I felt sorry for you. I was praying for you.
I know, and thank you. Prayers were heard, and they worked. And there's a new revolution coming back on 49th Street in the pizza business. Remember Pizza Rev?
Yes.
Pizza Rev is just, and the Rev stood for revolution. Now, we just sold that business last week. We got a new buyer that's coming in and is going to reopen that business at that location. And I'm
new name?
I don't think it's going to be under the name Pizza Rev. And so that's where.
I wouldn't.
That's where, well, I'll tell you what.
And that's not being ugly, but maybe sometimes it might attract more people to try it if it's not the old name.
And that's kind of what we spent months, just contemplating. But part of it is tied up in, some franchise. The franchise has kind of petered down, I guess is maybe the best way to put it. There's not a lot of them left out there. And this new owner thought, goodness, you got a lot of, kind of history there. And evidently, and this isn't my world, but I think there's like Facebook groups and things like this that are talking about we need to get Pizza Rev back. And so that's the exciting reason that this guy just said, I want to go back here. Wanted to open it as Pizza Rev and looked into the legalities, and it doesn't look like that's going to be likely. But in or around the next 60 days, you are going to be able to order your own pizza and make it up the way that you like and the way that is done for almost nearly 5 years at that location. Now, this is kind of across I'll call it the backside or the 49th Street side of the Empire Mall, kind of across from the Hy-Vee, just a little west of 49th and Louise, adjacent to and part of the Plains Commerce Bank facility. So anyway, that's just an exciting thing to watch for in the dining industry in Sioux Falls.
So, Sioux Falls, how are we going to close the year?
Well, yeah, you're just talking about ending the third quarter and heading into this fourth quarter. And, for the last couple of years, we've been saying, wow, we are in unprecedented times of craziness and all that. it's not going to last forever, and at some point it's going to be different. Well, we've experienced 9 months of different, and you're talking about building permit numbers and things like that. We seem to, as Sioux Falls, and I think hold that name in high regard because we just seem to figure it out, during good times or bad, one way or another. There's just so much positive energy, inertia, whatever you want to call it in this market that, we're going to have whatever happens in 24, be it recession, correction, whatever, maybe nothing. But signs are looking like something's going to happen. And we just always feel like we're going to have, a softer landing. So, we're chugging away. Fourth quarter, I think, is going to be probably pretty strong. I think our building permit numbers we'll be pretty pleased with. I think in the area, by that I mean region, we always stand up well. Nationally, we always fare pretty well. So, I guess a little bit of crossing our fingers, hoping for some optimism, hoping some of those cataclysmic things. There's crazy stuff going on in the geopolitical world. We've got talks of auto strikes that could, literally decimate the economy, and things like that. So there's a lot of, X factors out there that, we're watching closely. Obviously, the obvious things, interest rates, banking, things like that we talked about, and how it affects retail sales. We got Christmas coming up, so we always watch that as a bellwether of our economy, what retail sales are doing for Christmas. This whole online thing versus bricks and mortar that we've been dealing with for 8 years, just talking about which is taking over, which. But, I think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to be overall pretty good.
We got buyers and sellers sitting out there this morning, and here's what I would like you to do. Pick one of the two and tell those that are in the buying mood what you would talk to them about so that they kind of understand how you can help.
Well, here's the big thing that I ask people, and that is, it's a little nervous right now for some people. And so I say, look, I'm not a salesman, Bill. I don't sell people onto investing in property or things like that. People need to be sold themselves, and I direct them is what I do. But the question I ask people, specifically buyers, is, are you bullish on Sioux Falls? Because if you're not, then it's kind of pointless to really continue. But a lot of people, we're all bullish on this town that we live in, and for good reason. And so, I think that's, really the first opportunity. And from there, again, these are the tough times, in a sense, the tougher times than we've been in for a while. So, as I was talking about earlier, if you can figure out a way to make investments today, if that's your objective, now can be a good time to do it. It's just the waters are a little shark infested. There's a few areas that you can get bit. So it's good to have an allied professional in the commercial field, to kind of hold your hand, to quarterback your deal, to help you along, because there's some landmines that you can step in, and it kind of hurts when you do. And so, but yeah, for the most part, reason to be bullish in our community.
How do they reach Mr. Nelson?
Nelson Commercial Real Estate. We're on the web at ncommercial.com, or you can reach me direct at 605-728-7600.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Bill.